Question 2, this is a pivot to
Yes,
blockchain. So according to a somewhat recent study from Science Direct, public companies that made blockchain-related announcement earned an average 5% return the day of the announcement. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, if blockchain is still hype or is it the future, what's slowing down the rollout, and how will it change?
Yeah, so I'm curious, one thing that I did want to understand is a blockchain-related announcement, meaning we're already a public company and surprise, here's something that we're saying related to blockchain. Is that where we are with this?
Yes, and I can pull up the study as well. But yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so the blockchain and so many of these broader scale technologies, when we look at the internet itself, for example, when it was first created as a component of the defense program, and it was not ready, it still had the same underlying structure, the same underlying logic, but being ready for a consumer rollout or a society-wide rollout, or even being able to lay on email and then commerce and then all of these things that it has grown to be, took multiple years for that to unfold. And so I see that parallel to blockchain right now. I think this is one of those things where investment now, early stage, will help to create that enabling function moving forward. And when blockchain is in the space where we will truly be able to cut out middlemen of all kinds and create the efficiency and the trustlessness that blockchain provides, it will be fascinating and wonderful for the day that we no longer have to pay banking fees across borders and like this kind of thing. It will be amazing. And so for the moment, if it's for most folks, it's not implementably usable technology for the moment, which is why we're seeing things like Hyperledger, that the Linux Foundation is, as a conglomerate, bringing lots of different industry folks together to do that heavy lift initial investment for broader scope and broader scape utilization. So I think we're still very early stages in terms of other applications besides, the financial uses that we've seen, but I think we will see its benefits unfold.
Okay, so you think the market response to blockchain-related announcements is pretty reasonable then? I mean, if it has this much promise, 5%,
I mean, and I wonder how sustained that 5%, if it's 5% sustained or if it's the announcement for the day, and so we're doing this, but the logic that's behind it, which I'm assuming the logic being we have invested in blockchain, therefore our operational efficiency will grow. That's a natural market reaction.
Sure. I think that's fair too. One of my issues with blockchain, I mean, I have a general understanding of it, but it seems like I haven't seen anybody that I know of doing sort of a clear explanation of what it is. I know a lot of people my parents' age and other peers of mine, they don't fully understand it. And there's all these startups in the space, blockchain wallets, cryptocurrency wallets with blockchain technology. It's all these kind of buzzwords. I mean, they do actually mean something, of course, and they do actually have promise, but how do we figure out a way, I guess it comes back to the awareness question, but how do we figure out a way to better explain it to people and, figure out a way that we can show people the promise? Because right now it just seems like, it'll be disruptive, but disruption is, the key word here.
Yeah, that's a great provocation. So the way that I explain to people, sort of what this is, it's like, do you actually know how could you explain to me simply how the internet actually works?
Probably not well.
Yeah, probably not well. I mean, you can talk around it and about it, and you can talk about what it enables.
Right.
But to get technical about the underlying connection and how information gets transferred and these sorts of things, for most folks, it's just above our pay grade.
Right.
And so that same logic applies to blockchain. We don't need to know all of the bits and bytes and what it means for somebody to have enough computing power to do the mining. And what we need to understand, for the most part, is what it can enable and what that means for business models, what it makes possible. Those who are experts, the same way that today with internet technology, can stay in the weeds with that. So by the way, if we're looking at something to study moving forward, this could be one of those things.
Sure.
But that's really how I explain it to people. Don't stress out that you don't understand the ins and outs of it. Look more for what's the application and why that's relevant to you and or your business model, and then partner with somebody who's actually an expert in the underlying technology.
Do you have any peers who are doing some of these sort of explainer sessions, or do you have anybody you know of who's making it more, I don't know, well known to a public audience in layman's terms?
Yeah, Michael Casey, who is with CoinDesk, and he was formerly at the Wall Street Journal, so we were actually colleagues at the Wall Street Journal. He then moved over to MIT and now is with CoinDesk. He's written a couple of books and a lot of other publications, but his most recent one is called The Truth Machine. And he explains business case use and societal case use in gorgeously simply to understand human terms. So he really takes it to that, like, let's look at what this can do for us, and away from simply that technology piece.
That's great. I will definitely check out Mr. Casey. The Truth Machine, it was a book he wrote?
Yes, yeah.
If you had to take a guess, which industry do you think blockchain will have the greatest effect on? I hear a lot of buzz about finance, and I've read a lot about fintech startups and, crypto wallets. I was at a startup accelerator before I started my current job, and I met somebody who was doing a blockchain-based wallet, and I've seen a lot of those sort of apps on the market. Do you think finance has the biggest potential, possibly because it's such a big market, or is there other applications?
Yeah, so I think, the way to think about this, or the way that I have chosen to think about it, that I find it easier, is looking for any place, anything that requires a middleman of some kind, a mitigator of some kind. So obviously in the finance world, that's most clearly present because we've relied on banks as clearinghouses for centuries.
Right.
But moving beyond finance and more tangentially to think, imagine real estate. No longer do we have to go through titles and deeds and processes and who owns what and what have. It's clear ownership. Everybody understands who owns what. We understand what happens when things shift. Moving over into logistics and distribution, supply chain management. Sure. Did my merchandise go from A to B? Was it actually on the boat? So all of these inefficiencies in processes of any kind, but I see logistics and distribution as the next big logical place for blockchain to play out.
Sounds like some of these middlemen should start studying up on blockchain.
Exactly. So it's like, that's the decision, like it's coming. So instead of being disrupted, why don't we get on board and become the disruptor?
Yeah, ride the wave. Don't get hit by the wave.
That's it.